Okay, so in previous videos, I said that the consequence of there being no free will is that there's no knowledge. We can't know anything. In this video, I wanted to comment on some other consequences of there being no free will that other people have mentioned, okay, that various philosophers and commentators have mentioned. And in this video, I'm going to pick on Sam Harris and what he wrote in his book, Free Will. And the reason I'm going to pick on him and that book is because that's probably the most popular book on this topic. And it's a good book. It's easy to read and it's short, it's clearly written. But the stuff he says in that book is similar to stuff a lot of other people say. So, uh, in his book, his book is divided into two parts. In the first part, he gives arguments for why there's no free will. And in the second part, he discusses the consequences of there not being free will. And he mentions personal consequences, political consequences, and the one I want to focus on is consequences for the criminal justice system. Uh, Specifically, his main thing is that we should no longer retributively punish criminals. Okay, uh, and retributive punishment means punishing someone just because they're bad or because we hate them or that kind of thing. Uh, Sam Harris says we can still lock up criminals who are dangerous, but we shouldn't be engaging in retributive punishment because if there's no free will, then it doesn't make any sense and it can even be counterproductive. And so he goes into various details about how the legal system can be changed to avoid retributive punishment. And my feeling is, as before, how could he know anything? You know, if there's no free will, how can we know anything? And I guess in this case, one way of putting it is Sam Harris assumes that criminals have no free will. But he seems to forget that the judge also has no free will. So if the judge decides to impose retributive punishment or whatever the judge decides to do, um, the judge had no free will in doing that. The jury has no free will. The philosophers and legal scholars and legislators who design the legal system, they have no free will in how they set up the legal system. And most importantly, Sam Harris himself has no free will. He had no free will in writing his book. He had no free will in coming up with the ideas in his book. So how could, no one can know if those ideas are correct. He can't know, we can't know. Um, and I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying we could never know if they're right or wrong or the correctness or truth of any of them. And I would say this applies in general to what any author says about the various consequences of free will. We can't know. We can't know if that's correct. Um, Now, there may seem to be some contradictions here, like how could I know that uh, no knowledge is a consequence of no free will, and how could I even know that there is no free will in the first place, and so on. For that, take a look at my contradictions video. But in this video, I just wanted to comment on these claims you hear from various authors about the consequences of no free will.